The Reproduction of Geese by Ronan Kramer and Cheyenne Lambert. Geese are one of the many species that calls eastern Washington home, and furthermore, it's one of the most frequently cited species for iNaturalist data surrounding Gonzaga University. They play a key role in Spokane's ecosystem, and their survival is vital for its future. The COVID-19 pandemic impacted nature in numerous ways, but especially in air pollution, as global levels of air pollution plummeted during the first months following lockdown orders. We called into question how, if at all, the reduction of air pollution affected the geese population of Spokane. Our research question for the project was how has decreasing air pollution due to COVID-19 affected the geese reproduction in Spokane, Washington? In future slides, we will talk about what influenced the research. Our hypothesis for the project was that we believe that the geese population will increase because of the lack of air pollution due to the pandemic, plus the fact that air pollution has adverse effects on reproduction, as well as the fact that there will be more birds to reproduce as they will not be dying due to air pollution. We did some research to decide what we wanted to focus on, and what we found is that air pollution had a decrease due to the shutdown following COVID-19. We also found that air pollution had an adverse effect on the reproduction of geese. Here, we have listed several of these articles and studies we read prior to beginning our own research.
We used iNaturalist data for the entirety of our data collection. We began by reviewing all of the observations of Canada geese in Spokane, Washington. There were a total of 225 entries by the date we finished data collection, and these varied from 2012 to 2021. We entered all these entries into a table we made in Excel, tracking the date that the observation was made and the number of goslings in each picture. We also kept track of the location and user, mostly to help us with our own consistency. For each observation, we had to review the pictures to see how many goslings were pictured and enter that data into the table. All the entries had pictures, and we only counted goslings that visibly had the markings of a gosling. Since we were recording reproduction rates, we could only use data from within the breeding season, which we determined using a combination of research into Canada geese breeding seasons and what we could see from our own data. We ultimately determined that the breeding season to be from March to May, and we only had one outlier, which was reported in December and is thus not representative of our data or any of the research we did into geese breeding seasons. And it is possible that the date the picture was taken was reported wrong. This is a picture of our actual data collection, though it goes on several more pages. You can see that the different sections and the highlighted data is all the data recorded in the breeding season. The reason we decided to track the number of goslings per picture rather than the number of geese per year is because we felt that the tracking the rate of goslings would be more representative of the reproductive rates and less representative of the other factors that can affect a geese population, though other factors still play a part. We also used this method because we felt like it would reduce the variable of COVID-19's effect on human population, as recently there are fewer people in Spokane and fewer people comfortable going out and reporting data. This method takes in gosling per picture, so it is less affected by lower reporting numbers during the past year or so.
Our first results tab shows the trend of goslings per picture on iNaturalist on a per-year basis, with average gosling per picture in a y-axis and years in the x-axis. As evident, each year saw the trend go downward on a year-to-year basis, with 2014 having the highest amount with 2 goslings per picture, and 2020 having the lowest at 0.46. Similarly, our second results tab shows the trend of goslings per picture on iNaturalist on a per-month basis, with months in the x-axis and average gosling per picture in the y-axis. As evident, May was always the most popular month, as May of 2014 even yielded 4 goslings per picture.
Our hypothesis. We could not see the full picture of COVID-19's effect on geese reproduction, but from the data we have, we could see no distinguishable increase in geese reproduction. This means that our hypothesis was incorrect, and geese reproduction did not increase during COVID-19. What we found. The average goslings per picture on iNaturalist per year has decreased from 1.25 in 2017 to around 0.46 in 2020. This shows that each year the reproduction rate of Canada geese in Spokane, Washington decreases significantly, and you can see that in the first graph. We did not include 2014 and 2021 data in this analysis because the sample size was too small to be accurate. Why our hypothesis might be wrong? Air pollution did not decrease enough to have a significant impact. Though there were initial reports of air pollution decreasing dramatically at the beginning of the lockdown, there was quite a few disastrous forest fires in the Northwest that added air pollution. Additionally, it is possible that the lockdown did not decrease air pollution enough to aid the reproductive health, especially if geese lockdown did not decrease air pollution, especially if geese reproduction is already declining for other unrelated reasons. Geese reproduction health might also not be affected by air pollution in the degree to see a discernible difference. Why geese reproduction could be declining? Though we cannot find current discussion on declining geese reproduction in the Pacific Northwest, there have been studies that have found that climate change, while not affecting breeding, put mother geese at a higher risk of death. A study also showed that the 1964 earthquake caused a decline in the reproductive success of Canada geese across the Northwest. As we don't have the data available to track when the reproductive success began to decline, we cannot cross-reference to environmental events that may have caused this adverse effect. I would like to say that everything discussed in this slide is just conjecture based on research we did after the fact. There could be several different reasons why the hypothesis is wrong or why geese reproduction is declining, and this is just why it's so important that we look into this issue more in order to see to find an actual reason. Canada geese provide several ecological benefits that may aid other plants and animals. They contribute to natural biological diversity and can serve as seed distributors by depositing seeds of plants they ate. Goose feces in moderation can contribute to soil fertility by adding nutrients. Because of this, geese reproduction is important to the ecology of Spokane, and it is important that further research is conducted in order to find out why reproduction is declining in geese. However, an overabundance of geese can be harmful to the community and to the environment, as they have been known to cause pollution when they are not kept in moderation. So it is very possible that the reproduction is kept low intentionally, though I could find no public information on that. Regardless, more information needs to be done because lowering reproduction rates can show declining health, and this may be indicative of the whole environment or even another species that could be affected. We need to determine if this is an issue that affects the rest of the environment, what that issue is, and if it is having a negative effect, stop it. Some possible sources of error in our data come from our use of iNaturalist as a sample, as well as our sample size. Since we used iNaturalist, we relied on observations of others. Not only could these observations have been inaccurate, but the rate in which people were observing geese could fluctuate and affect the data, particularly because there weren't as many people in Spokane during lockdown as campus closed. If we were to do this again and we had any experience, we would have measured the data ourselves or used official data collection instead of relying on a public app. We also only had a few years worth of reliable data, as iNaturalist only started getting observations after 2017, aside from a few in 2014. We included the data in 2014 and 2021, which had next to no observations, in our data collection and graphs in order to retain the integrity of our project by including every observation, but we did not include these in our data analysis, as there have been too few observations to have an accurate mean. If we were to do this again, we would have liked to have a broader scope of data, and we would have liked to have more consistent sampling of data. Though we cut out the 2014 data from our analysis because sampling size was far too small, the data in the other years still varies far too much for our liking. So the next steps for researchers would be to confirm our findings with a larger sample size and with more consistent data, and then to research if all Canada geese are declining or if it's just a subspecies that is being affected, and showing on all of our data. Another thing to do would be to determine the reason for the geese decline and determine how to prevent the geese decline if it is having a negative effect on the rest of the environment. Like I said before, it is very important that we do our research into finding out what the data we found here means and if this is accurate, because geese are very important to the ecology of Spokane, and This might be indicative of a larger conservation issue at play. And here's our works cited.